Hi everybody, welcome to the workshop. You've got myself and David today. Now I know you were all expecting Stephanie and Mel, but if you were watching Create and Craft, if you were watching Create and Craft a couple of hours ago. Sorry everybody.
You might not have heard us.
Yeah, you might not. You could hear my mouth, but there was no sound. So, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining myself and David. We're going to be with you doing this Zoom workshop. Now, I know you were all thinking that you were going to see Mel and Stephanie. Stephanie has been called away on another little job. And if you were watching Create and Craft today, Mel is actually in Peterborough. So things had to juggle around and change a little bit. So it's myself and David. So we're going to take you through everything that you would have actually seen anyway. David is going to be our computer expert for the next hour because he's all the technological and things.
Well, something like that.
And I'm going to do the scan and cutting. So that's how we're going to work it. But at any point you've got any questions, unmute your mic, shout out, and or pop a question in the chat, type it in the chat, and our lovely Andrew upstairs will let us know that somebody's wanting some help. So at any point, jump in there and say, just hang on a bit, you're going a bit too quick, can you repeat that again? We're here to help you, okay? So is everybody, we just need to check, there's a lot of you. Can we have a thumbs up or a wave? Can you all hear us? Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on.
Right, if you're having any issues or something happens with regards to the connection or something, if you type it in the chat, Andrew will try and sort it upstairs for us. Okay, so if the sound goes or something, type it in the chat and Andrew will be able to help you. Okay?
Oh, wonderful.
And we're recording as well, obviously. So, everybody, you've joined us today, but you'll get a link in an email as well. So even though you've joined us now, you're still going to get that link and rewatch it.
Exactly, and you can go to YouTube to watch that as well. So anything that you see us doing today, if you want to just sit back for today and just enjoy it and relax, you can do, because then as well you could take notes. But if there's a particular demonstration or maybe something Amanda's doing with the scan and cut and you think, well, actually, I've not really done any of that before, you can go back and watch that at your own leisure, which is great because then I think it gives you more time and it gives us more time to share more with you as well. So that you've got complete reassurance that you can go back.
Okay.
So, I mean, this launched about 2 weeks ago now, didn't it, on Create and Craft? And the show was incredible. It was so busy. And Mel and Stephanie actually did the show together, didn't they?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to do something with a similar approach. So I'm going to do the digital side. Amanda, you're going to be doing some cutting. But we want to show you something different as well. So, of course, we're going to do different demonstrations. But what I would love to hear from you as well, if you are going to be watching this back on YouTube, or you can leave a comment now if you like, what would you like to see from the demonstrations? Is there anything different you'd like to see? Or have you got any ideas maybe that you want to actually see coming up on Minecraft Studio? It'd be really interesting because there's so much in the pipeline, but having your guys' feedback at home makes such a difference. So that would mean a lot. But yeah, do give us a shout. But we've got some cards as well to show you.
Yep.
Some of you may have seen some of these on the shows, and there's some additional ones as well. But these are beautiful.
So these are, they look, well, actually, when we were doing this...
I know what you're going to say now.
I'm going to...
you're going to drop me in it.
Yeah, I'm going to... Yeah, I am. Sorry, but not.
Go for it.
So when we were doing this, Stephanie was doing all the prep and I was helping with the prep. So Stephanie was doing the actual building of the cards and then I was doing the glittering and actually putting things together. And David had been on air and he came back into the office and we all went... David, come and look at this, because we were all really super excited about the collaboration and how well Minecraft Studio actually works alongside the Scan and Cut. They are just a marriage made in heaven to work together. So we showed David and he went, oh, that's like a real card. And it was like, yeah, David, it is a real card.
I think I caused a bit of offence. But what I intentionally and did mean from that was the fact that when you walk into a card shop, whether it's you buy a card and they're like £5-10 a card, it looked like shop bought professionalism. And that's the quality that you will get with this, because of course when you're getting a flush print on the surface of a card, it looks as though it's been professionally manufactured, but you've done it yourself.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by it when I first saw it.
But that was the response we wanted. We really wanted him to go, oh, wow, that is amazing. And it really is amazing because of being able to build up that perspective, which David is going to show us. The cards you can create are fabulous. And obviously you're going to get that imagery that was with a Frosted Eve. So you've got all of these pieces to build up. You're going to get all your flora and fauna. We've got obviously these lovely little cabochons, and then we've got all of the actual pieces, the elements. So we've got the tree, the bridge, and as on these two that you can see, the elements that are what we class as probably an embellishments, and the bridge, they've been used in totally different ways, but it's exactly the same image, which is just fabulous. Again, so we've got a little teeny weeny one, so it's all about building those scenes. But you don't have to build a great big scene. You can do something and put it inside a bauble. Now, I have to admit, these collections, our Christmas collections this year, have been my absolute favourite ones. They were just beautiful to work with.
I think everyone, and you could see the design team, everybody works here.
Everybody loved this.
And I mean, obviously yourselves at home loved it. I mean, the shows were just phenomenally busy. But I think that it's the colourways, it's the delicate touch that goes with the imagery, and that it all just worked.
It did.
None of it jarred, none of it didn't work together. It all flowed beautifully. And I think that when you're crafting, it makes crafting more fun because it's easier, because it all just naturally links to one another, doesn't it?
And then, so as David said, the colourway, this pink that we had is just beautiful.
It's really
and
nice.
It all just blended. And again, the wreath, all of these images, again, David's going to take us through all of this with Minecraft Studio. To be able to resize all of these is just fabulous. So we've also got the topper builder as well that Diane put on this one for us. So when you look at these two, or even all of the cards, when I bring all these together, if you think all of them are using the same images, but can you imagine, we've done only these few, how many there are to build it.
It's never ending.
Yeah, exactly. There's no number you can put on this.
Definitely.
And everything is just stunning. So then once you've done this, taking it over to the ScanNCut, cutting out the image, and then building up all of your mats and layers. So remember, we're going to do a little bit of that with the ScanNCut this time.
Definitely.
So we're going to get going.
That's the bit I'm really excited for, because it's something I haven't done. But it's fascinating to see that we're going to take it from the computer to the ScanNCut. So I'm going to take you over to the computer now. And I've got Minecraft Studio already loaded up here onto my PC. And we've popped our USB already into the computer. So you can see here we've got our collections, we've got our embellishments, we've got our scenes, textures, colours, and our topper builder as well. But just to talk you through here and actually walk you through it, when we go into the collections and we've got Frosted Eve, you can see here all of the elements that you're actually getting on there. So for example, if you wanted to pick any one of these, say it is the church that we've got here, beautiful scene, instantly you only need to take one or two to get it started. Of course, layering things in order, actually bringing things around in different spaces, gives you the idea of depth, the perspective. Really simple toppers and tags can be created with something like this, but when you actually start going through all of the files and see what's there, for example, let me just highlight these to take them off. At a glance, looking at this one, of course it's a bird table, but that could be a manger, couldn't it, with a nativity scene built inside there? I think that would just look incredible. Of course, you could add your snow to the top of this, fill it with trees in there. But as well, this is like the ultimate collection for wreath making as well. When you're looking at all of these elements of foliage, but again, that's just one of the collections, because your other one on here, which is through the frosted glass, you have your scene building. And as well, just to mention, throughout going into each one of these, of course, you have your scene building, you have your reflections here, which you can see is all your printable reflections, which matches up with the dies if you've already got those. But you also have your digital stamps as well, of course, which you can colour by hand, or you could colour these on Minecraft Studio as well. So you could be bringing up these images, which you can see here, which you can make in any size or shape. Because, of course, you can think like, I can have a stamp, but once I've got that stamp, it's going to only ever stay that size. This time, you've got full freedom with a stamp, which I just think is like...
Can I ask a question, David?
Of course you can.
So I'm actually learning along with all of you with this, because I've not done much with Minecraft Studio. I'm okay with the ScanNCut, but the Minecraft Studio is also new with me. But you know that digital stamp?
Yes.
Can you then create a scene around that or create a scene with it? Can you put that into a wreath?
Yeah, you could do, absolutely. So you could treat this entire outline as your aperture if you wanted to. So the scene could be in there, or you can build up scenes with these. You can overlap them, still treat them the same as all of your embellishments. So even though we've called them a digistamp, they can really be interpreted in any way you want to. So absolutely you can do.
So I can create that wreath,
Yes.
print it off,
Yep.
send it into my,
Yep.
scan it into my ScanNCut, cut it out, and then colour it in my colours that I want.
You can do.
It doesn't
indeed.
have to be coloured.
Nope, not at all. And I think what we'll do to get started is build up a scene for you to cut if you like.
Yes,
Let's
please.
do that.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go into our collections and let's go into Through the Frosted Glass. Let's have a look. And we've got these beautiful baubles down here at the bottom. So I'm going to bring this one out here to start with. And as well with this one, you can see in the center it almost turns translucent, which of course means you could build a snow globe effect in here. It could withhold a scene. You could build a story inside the snow globe. But again, think about printing this onto acetate. How incredible would that look if you were to build something transparent? But again, think of all of the hanging decorations you could be making with this as well. So now I'm going to flip back into the next collection, which is A Christmas Eve. Now in here we have a lot of our buildings, our animals, as well as our florals as well. So we can actually build a story with this. So I think this little house here reminds me of my favourite Christmas film. And it's, do you know The Holiday?
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of. And that there just really is nostalgic Christmas for me. But you can see the scale at which it can take this right down to. You could make a full street of houses if you wanted to. Because again, if we wanted, we can then be copying and pasting our images. But if we flip them, we can make it look like there's two of cottages. It could be in the centre of a little end of a road.
That is really cute.
It's
and
cute,
I know
isn't
the film
it?
you're talking about.
Exactly.
So we've had a question, David.
Oh, wonderful.
So can you repeat that again for me, Andrew? Okay. So we've got it on the screen. Just bear with us, everybody. Right. Oh, so Louisa is asking David. Let me just put some... I can't even... It's too far away. I can't see that. The images on Minecraft Studio, when they're imported onto that mat, are they the same size as the Charisma images? So if they're then colour changed, can they actually then be cut out? So are they the same size as the reflections?
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much for your question. And basically with that, what you'd want to do, if you're wanting to have any of these images which are designed in cooperation with the dies, you would go into your reflections here. So you can see this here is where all of the reflections are. So say, for example, we bring out the eucalyptus here. These are designed, printed at 100% without changing the size, will match up perfectly with the die. So you can see here your two red robins emblem that is attached to the die here. This will mean that they will actually cut out exactly as it is. So if you wanted to go into your effects here, one of these 4 tabs across the top section, if you were to go into the hue and we wanted to change this to sepia tones, maybe you wanted to build an autumnal wreath, not necessarily for Christmas, and you wanted some wispy brown bits in there. Even though we've changed the coloration of this, you can still cut it with your die. So yeah, absolutely, of course you can do.
But you just need to go into the right folder.
Yes.
So the folder that we need for this is your reflections folder.
Definitely.
And then that actually then fits your dies.
It does. So of course your die, your nested tree die that you had with this collection, which I thought was fabulous. This here is the tree. So of course, if you've got those dies, all of the elements that you're going to want to use do have the reflections size to the die. So again, you can go in here, change the color if you really want to, no matter which way you want to do it. Maybe you want some blue tone trees to go with a nighttime scene, then you can still cut them out at the same time. So this is adding even more to your creativity really with Minecraft Studio. But yeah, thank you for your question, because that's actually a really good point. But you can build up, change colors no matter which way and still die cut. So what I'm going to do now is go back into our scene building, and we're going to bring in some of this festive fur. So as well, when you're actually building a scene, you can soften edges on elements. Maybe if you want to appear, you've got like a vanishing point on an image, but for this one, we're going to keep it quite crisp. So I'm going to change the size of the tree. And when you're actually building on Minecraft Studio, if any of you are new to this, if you're maybe adding 20 to 30 or maybe even 30, 40, 50 layers within an image, if you're building up a very complex background, it can get a little confusing as to how many layers are in there and you can get a bit lost. So if you ever go into your layers icon here, which sits just at the top, if you go into this one, it will bring you all of your layers. So of course, so far, all we've added is those 3 layers. But if you wanted to highlight any one of them, you just go to your layers section. So it means that if you had a really tiny tree, so for example, our tree here was super tiny in our scene and he was there just to add a filler, but I couldn't quite click it or find it. All I need to do there is I can highlight it so I know exactly whereabouts it actually is and bring it out. So if you're ever building an in-depth scene, that's the way to do it. But we're going to actually make it so that we can build some perspective within our shapes and our houses and trees, but we want the bauble to be actually the background. So we're going to always leave this sat at the very back of our image.
Sorry, David, can I just interrupt?
No, not at all.
The lovely Maureen has just asked us, can the reflections be cut on the ScanNCut? Absolutely, Maureen. Yes, they can. So there were 2 USBs that you would have had with this. You would have had the Frosted Eve, which is the Minecraft Studio part of it, and then you would have already had also had the USB with the collections on. So you would then print off your reflections that have got the black box around. So that's, you can put, Andrew's asking if you can put that in Minecraft Studio. Yes, you can change your colourway in your imagery, absolutely.
Brilliant. So if you're wanting to do that, of course, you can combine the two together. So if you want to do two-dimensional crafting with Minecraft Studio, you can still do that as well as then doing your decoupage and all of your cutting. So if that's your favourite area of craft, you can still sort of expand out into this, but at the same time explore both, which I think is great.
That's the whole why we did the amalgamation. So you would, for me, how I love to think about working with this is that we can do the scenes. So we can have a scene like this, okay? But then because we've also got the other USB with the reflections on, I can then go and print the reflections. I can change the sizes if I wanted to, but then they're my extra embellishment, but it's still flat, okay? So it's still practically a flat card, isn't it?
Exactly.
So all of your detail is being put in the background, and you might just want a few extra of the little holly on the side. So you then cut out your reflections, but all of this, and it's so easy then to, as long as you don't change the rectangle. But one of the things that I learned just recently, which I thought was absolutely fabulous, can we just go to the ScanNCut a second? So if you go into your printer settings and you print off one of your reflections, and you're printing off one of your reflections and you think, actually, I need this a little bit bigger. So I'm actually a fair bit, but I want it at least half the size. So if you print it off at the percentages where it says 100%, if you go into there and print that at 150% and print it, okay, so you've then got bigger images, but it will still print it with the black rectangle around it. That won't disappear, but the image will be bigger. So what you then do is, let me just wake up the machine. So you've got your image, and then let me just retrieve, I'll just retrieve anything, just a basic shape, and just set that on the map. So then when I go into edit, and I go into object edit, we've then got printer settings that have then got sizes. So I'm going to put a couple of on here. So I'm going to put 2 or 3. So you've got more on the screen to see. I hope you can see that. I'm going to go all the way through. And it actually gives me the option of size change. So I'm going to go into edit. I'm going to group everything on the mat, object edit, and then group. I've welded it, it doesn't matter. Press OK. And then it tells me I can pick a percentage, so I can change the percentage. So now I want to go into my size, which is here. Now at the bottom on this one, so this is on your SDXs, we've got a little percentage key here. So if I'd scan that in, if that was one of my ScanNCuts, so I can change the percentage. So I've printed it off at 100%, that stays the same, but I've printed it off at 150%. So I now just, oops, wrong way. If I put my glasses on, it might help. So if I now change that and I want my cutting size to be 150%, as long as the print size that I've chosen and the cut size percentage on here are the same, it will still line up exactly the same. And the way you get around that with the CM machine, because obviously they're different, is when you print it, the actual black box will still be there. And what you do is you measure, so you've got your printed sheet in front of you, you measure the black line across the top and the black line across the bottom, and you put, when you scan it in, you group all your elements together, and then you change your size. So you go back to this one instead, and then you would unlock your aspect ratio. So we're splitting the height from the width, and then you would put in your height, which is your longer of your black lines, and your width, which is your shorter of the black lines. And if those two are the same, it'll match up whatever you scan in. So it's all about the black rectangle. That's what it's about. So with the SDX, you can choose your percentage. And with the CM, you measure your black rectangle, and you'll be able to resize your images, and they'll match up perfectly every time.
Wonderful. I've learned something there as well, definitely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go straight back onto Minecraft Studio here, and I started to layer up these trees, but I want this tree here to actually sit behind the building. So when you right click on the highlighted image, we can go into order, and we can then either send it to the back or we can send it backwards. Now sending it to the back will mean it will sit behind the big bauble, but sending it backwards means it only sends it back one layer. So you can see there now, it's just sat behind the house. So automatically you're creating perspective, only clicking buttons, which is quite incredible really. I've got myself another house there. Right, so what I'm going to do is right click on my tree, copy and paste, because I don't need to keep dragging it out from the folder each time. And also if you're going to delete something, don't worry, it will not delete it from here, because that's all sort of encrypted onto that USB. You cannot get it off there. So don't worry about deleting anything. Don't have
so what are you doing there to resize everything, David? You're just getting hold of one of the little boxes?
Yep, so you can see here when your image is highlighted, if I bring it here, you can see it slightly better, but you get these boxes here that surround the full perimeter of the image with a little circle that sits at the top. Now, a circle is to rotate, so of course you can rotate, and it will give you the measurement in degree of what you've rotated it to, so you can make it accurate, so we can get that straight again. But as well, these little squares that sit around the side mean that you can enlarge it as it would be, but then you can almost unlock the aspect ratio,
Ooh.
which is what you do on the ScanNCut, and make it long.
Ooh.
So you can do it that way if you wanted to. You know, this is the way, depending on what image it is. But if you've got it somewhere, then you weren't quite happy with it, you can just go back up to undo up here, and we can send it straight back to normal.
So I don't have that one tree image. I've now got multiple different.
You've got multiples. You could then be enlarging this, cropping it here, and it could be, a privet that runs across the front of the building. It doesn't necessarily have to be just the large spruce tree as it is.
Oh, that's clever.
It's fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to add a couple more of these. So I'm going to paste again, and I'm pasting that original one. So each time I'm just going to change the size, make this one slightly smaller. And I think let's paste another one, bring some round here. So again, I'm going to actually have this one, I'd like it to sit at the back. So I'm going to send it backwards. But the thing is, when you're sending it backwards, you're sending it back layer by layer. Now we added on this tree, then this one, then this one. So we created 3 more layers. So as we're sending it through backwards, it's now reached that layer. So it's finally gone to the back. So you're working through the stages. It's a little bit like if you were to create your mats and layers, and maybe you had black, silver, and then white. Each one you're selecting is in between one of those mats and layers within the colours, but it's just the number of trees. Does that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question?
Of course you
At the
can.
moment, you've got that image.
Yes.
If I got a bit carried away, but I liked my image.
Yes.
Can I make all of that smaller to fit inside my bauble, or have I got to start all over again?
No, you can group the whole thing together and resize it. So what we'll do is we can group the whole thing over, and you could make this scene super teeny tiny, or you can make it much, much bigger. So you could be making this bauble scene as it is, and then if you wanted to, you could get rid of the bauble, enlarge this, and that could be your card scene if you wanted it to be. So you could group all of this together because it's now what you do is when you drag a box like this, just selecting the left icon on your mouse and releasing, it selects everything. So if you were to group it like this, if I go here to the top where it says group, which is highlighted in yellow.
Like we do in the ScanNCut?
Yep, it's now grouped all of that image together, meaning that we can resize it.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
Yep, so you can resize it all in one go. So what I'm going to do now is highlight it again, and I'm going to ungroup it. So now it's all ungrouped again, because we still want to play with that image, which means now we can still move those bits independently again. So what I'm going to do is just get another few of these little trees out, and then we can add some bits into our foreground just to soften it a little bit. And as well, when you're thinking about the intensity of colour, the opacity, that can also all be changed on here as well. But I'm quite happy with how they're turning out. So if I grab one of these fences here, let's have a look. So we've got one of these picket fences. I'd like this to sit in here, but I'd like it to actually look like a gate. So if I right click and copy and paste again, we've got two of them. But I want this pole here to match up with this pole. So if I right click on any one of them and we flip it horizontally, it now creates almost like we've got a pen which can sit around and make a garden fence. So what we can do is resize this right down, bring it round here, and then what we can do is resize this one down and just play with it and make a little garden at the front. So we've almost got a little walkway up to our house here. And then I think it would be lost without maybe a little post box, which, I mean, look at that. Isn't that just incredible? I love that so much. And do you know what I love about Minecraft Studio with Red Robins? No matter how big you make the image, the detail is never lost. It always stays the same resolution. So we're going to make this super teeny tiny and bring it down here and actually have it fence post. There we go. And then I think what we could do is to give it almost a rice paper-esque feel, is we can go into some of our foliage. So let's have a look at what we've got on here. In fact, actually, I might go into a different collection. So if we go into, through the frosted glass, into our scene building, we've got some bits of mistletoe here. And overlaying these, they look quite intense with the colour. So I'm going to change the opacity of this. I'm just going to fade this down. There we go. And as I rotate them round using that circle at the top, I'm actually going to have them sat around the edges of the baubles, which makes it look like you've captured a scene. So if I select this one again, I'm going to copy and paste. There we go. I'm going to bring this one round, and I wanted this one actually quite close to the edge, but I don't want that stem on the outer bit. So what I'm going to do is crop it. So in this top icon up here, we can click crop, highlight our image, and just crop that piece off, just like that. And then we can bring it in so it sits nicely at the edge. So I'm going to paste it again, enlarge them so they're all different sizes. I'll paste this one. There we go, around here. And then I'm really happy with how this has turned out. So what I'm going to do is drag in, using my left click on my mouse, you can see here, it makes a box appear. I'm going to highlight the entire image like this. So everything there, all of your layers are highlighted. I'm going to group it together. There we go. So everything on here is now grouped as one piece. So if we were then to go and print this, we can then scan it in to cut it out. So shall we do that?
So here's one we made earlier. I've always wanted to say that.
And now you said it.
So this is the exact image that David has just made, which is beautiful. And I love this, that we've got the actual beautiful, the mistletoe around the edge. And it almost looks like it's been hand painted onto the glass. It is so beautiful. So now what we're going to do is the fun bit. Now this is my favourite piece, okay? So now, and just imagine, you know, now David has done all that work. If you saved it ungrouped.
Yes. Yeah.
So not grouped, save it ungrouped. Well, you can save it grouped. Now you've done all that work. That is now done, isn't it?
Yeah.
We don't need to do that again. So once you've actually created an image, That could be this year's Christmas card for all the family, or the neighbours on the you know, around and about. I live on a crescent, so I would just say, you know, on my little bit that I'm on. But then next year, you could still use the bauble. You could still, but instead of having that, you can completely change that just by lifting that scene out and putting the church in instead.
Or you could, what about if all your neighbours on the street had pets? And you put a photo of their pet in each one of the baubles, because of course your own photographs, no matter what they are, if you can send them from your phone to your computer, any photo can be on Micro Studio.
That is brilliant, isn't it?
It's fab.
So we're now going to open up the ScanNCut and we're going to load this in. Okay, like so. Then now I'm going to press home because I'm going to take everything off of there that we did. But what we want to do is scan to direct cut. Okay, so this is a little bit different. So normally we would have a pattern on our mat, and we would have our reflection, our SVG file on the screen, and we would have an image of our reflection, and we would scan it in, line it up and cut it. This time we're doing it a little bit different. So we're going to scan. Now when we scan from this, we can direct cut or scan to cut data. Now these are a little bit different. The direct cut is the one that will work on this mat. Okay, so it's going to directly cut on the mat. The one that is scanning to cut data, that's when you use your scanning mat. And what it does, it takes all that information, saves it into the machine, then you can go ahead and manipulate it. But we're going to direct cut it. Now, it gives you options of where you want to do this. So we're going to just do it with the actual machine. And we've actually got on here colour. Now I'm going to change this at the bottom. So we've got this little key here. If I press that key, it gives us two options. We've got a grayscale, or we have a colour scale, and I want it to scan in colour. That way it's going to pick up all of these pieces that are on here. Now if I'd done this in black and white and it was just in grayscale, I would leave it in grayscale. But because we've got all of the colours going on, we want it to actually see it all. So now, press start, and it's now just going to scan exactly as it does as if we'd got our actual reflections. So now it's found everything on the mat, okay? So if you can see on here, even the detail that's on this mat, that are all these cut lines, etc. But we want to actually frame the image. So it's not going to have to find all of this, because once it finds all these, it's going to want to cut all that out. So by using our drag arrows, I'm going to bring this in close and bring it in here, like so. Okay, I want to press OK. So we've framed the image, and I say, yeah, I'm happy with that. And so now it's recognising. So instead of looking at everything on that full mat, what we've done is we've made it a smaller area for it to have a look at. Now, it's saying ignore object size. It is quite pale on here. So this again, because it's faded out in some of these areas, it's not captured everything. So we're going to do it a little bit a different way. So I'm going to go back again. I'm going to say cancel, back again. Okay. So we're going to do it again, but this time I'm going to change that grayscale. Okay. So now we're going to go in and have a look to see what it looks like in black and white. And this is what you would do at home. So I'm going to say yes, happy to start. It's going to scan it in. Sometimes when it's faded on the edge, it can't quite see it. So using the colour, if I'd got a colour one, I would absolutely do that. It's not picked all of that edge up, so I've scanned it in again because I want it to have the chance to do it. So I'm going to press OK, I'm happy with that. I'm going to drag all that in. Now, if it doesn't pick it up again, there's a little trick that we can do. So now it's picked up all of that detail. Now I only want to pick up the outside line. So what I'm going to do is because this will happen at home, you'll see, you'll think, well, why is it not seeing everything? And I'm going to unload it and show you why it's done that. Press OK and unload it. Now, on here, on this edge, it's a really pale line, okay? So it's not finding that. Then it skips, then it's a gap, then it skips, and there's more gaps, okay? But there's a really super easy way of actually for it to see it.
Mm-hmm. So could this be that if you built a scene on Minecraft Studio and maybe you wanted the scene to have a finishing edge and it looked like maybe the tree blended out into the white background, is this what you'd do to then rectify that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So now all we're going to do is, glasses on, is just draw. Now I'm going to do it in black solely because it's easier for you at home to see. If I was doing this for myself, I would probably use a grey or something like that, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to follow around that line. Now there are several different ways of being able to do this.
So this is just going to like solidify all of that outer edge.
Join up that outer edge.
Okay.
So the machine, it's not working as hard to find everything. So all I'm doing, not being very neat about it because I haven't got a very steady hand, so I apologise.
But I guess you don't really need to have a steady hand, do you? Because once you've drawn around it and you've got that cut line, you're not even going to see it anyway because it will cut on the line, which I think just helps you and you help it, don't you, really?
Yeah, but on the upside of that, you can also add, if I was to cut it out and use a paler pen, so it's definitely seeing that contrast between the solid line and the white background.
Yeah.
You can also add that offset line on it as well. Okay, so you're going to be able to add an outward offset line, which I think is fantastic. It creates that faux matte. So you've got a matte layer straight away for your charisma or your reflection for free, which I think is amazing. So you don't even have to put your first matte layer on there. So all I'm doing is helping this, because this is such a pale image, I'm just going to help it so it can actually find that outside edge. Now I've put it on a little bit thicker than I actually would, just so you can actually see it. So that actually comes up quite well on the screen. So you can now see we've got a really good strong outline. So pop that back in. So really everything that you do with the scan and cut, there is always, always a workaround for it. Now there's another way of being able to do this as well, that if you didn't want to draw on your image, you could put a piece of acetate over the top. You can draw around the acetate, scan it in, so it picks up. So you leave your acetate covered over your image. You scan it in, it would find that black line. You take your acetate off and then it would cut it out because it's already got the image.
So you're like tricking the scan and cut?
Into seeing
like
something
that
you want it to see.
And you just remove the acetate before you cut it?
Yep, just take the acetate away and cut it.
I like that.
So we're going to go home, okay.
I guess that would work really well if you had a very intricate image as well, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So now we're going to say yes, and we're going to... Yep. Yeah, absolutely. So one of our lovely crafters that are with us at the moment has asked a question that if you've got your reflection, can you resize it? Absolutely you can. Then scan it in and cut it. So we're doing this on this one, but this is then another way you can use your reflection. If you were to make it big enough that your actual box didn't print, you can then choose, so like a basic outline like this is, you can then enlarge that, and because you can then scan it in, see how big it is and then increase it to make sure it then fits over the top. So yeah, you can absolutely use the bauble shape that's on on the SVG file, not a problem. And you just enlarge it, and so it actually finds what it is. So you don't even have to scan it in if you don't want to. You would go to your machine, bring on your SVG file. I wouldn't have them all on there. I'd just choose one, resize the one, and just hover over and cut it out as well. Absolutely, you can. So let's start to scan. So that's an alternative way of being able to do it, just by using your SVG file. So obviously, when you bought this again, it just gives us so many options of being able to use the Minecraft Studio and the ScanNCut and work them together. So now it's recognising. Press OK. And now you can see straight away, now we've given it a little bit of a helping hand to be able to see those two contrast between the outside and the white. It can actually do this properly. So press OK. OK again. And when it disappears, so there we have. So you can trick it in some respects to actually do this, but the SVG one would be another way of actually doing it.
It's literally just that outline now, isn't it, on the map? So it was literally, you scanned it in and then you just ended up with the outline image like that.
So we've got that, we're at that point. So here is also where it's fun. So now we've got that scanned outline image. We can now go here, so we can edit it if we wanted to. But if we go on here, this is creating an outward offset line, okay? So if we press on that and I say, shall we do 4 millimeters? I just want enough so you can actually see the difference.
Wait, so, sorry, just to ask a question. You're creating an outset line. Can you do one on the inside?
Yes.
So that would mean it would get rid of the black line
if you wanted to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Or you can have it and bring it right down so it cuts an aperture bauble shape within that. So you've then got and then when it drops out, you can then have an aperture card with the bauble on the inside. So when you open it, the rest of the bauble is on the inside of the card.
Fab.
So if I just said, let's do 4 millimeters, can you see on the screen that black line is actually getting bigger and moving further away? Or if I do it that way, you can see that then actually comes around it, So this is why I love the ScanNCut, because it's so precise. So I'm going to say yes, I'm going to keep that outward offset line. I'm going to press OK again. We're going to say yes, cut.
I'm excited.
So again, that's why the ScanNCut and the Minecraft Studio work so well together, because of the versatility of everything that you can do in the Minecraft Studio, then to build all of this and then cut it out precisely with the ScanNCut, because this obviously it's got the scanner built, and then also working with the SVG file as well. It's just brilliant what you can create, the projects, and don't just think it's just the cards that you can do. Think about all of that home decor that you can do for Christmas.
I'd be printing these onto rice papers.
I love this piece. So you can't quite see it at the moment. So you've got the line. We know it's there. So now if I go like that and peel that off.
My word.
So that has now cut me out.
Oh my goodness.
A topper.
That's
and
amazing.
It's actually got, so that already looks like I've done a matte and layer to that, doesn't it?
It does. You could literally have a piece of string hanging off that and it could be a present tag.
But now, because that shape is on here, press OK, that shape's already on here. So now I can increase that again.
Oh, can we do that?
Yep.
I love this. So each time you increase it then, it's not like maybe if like a set of nested dies where maybe the smallest one in the middle has to be different shapes so it fits in there, it will change the exact same shape.
So it's going to, because we've used this system and we've done it this way, it's going to increase this with the aspect ratio in place.
Right.
So I'm going to go again on this. So it's already 3 millimeters. So shall we do another 2 millimeters?
Yeah, let's do it.
So we've now got a 5 millimeter. Remember, there's no image on here now. So I'm going to press OK, and we're going to choose what colourway, because we've got all this beautiful cardstock that we're bringing to you. you want that one?
Oh, let's just get that one. It's like a nice sepia tone, isn't it?
This cardstock it's coming to you very soon.
I'm so
okay?
excited. I mean,
So
there's like
we
a
are
brick there.
We are incredibly excited about this. So this is a real super sneaky peek, okay? All of these colours, this is what we're going to be having coming. And it's all 12 by 12. It's solid colour core. So again, we've chosen
cuts
this.
so well.
And it's beautiful. And it's especially the ScanNCut. So Mel is going to be doing a show and bringing you this. And we are super, super excited. So now, remember, first of all, we've gone into Minecraft Studio, used all the elements, and we've created ourselves a topper in this scene that we can change. We've then scanned it into the machine. We've had to go around the edge just to darken that up and make sure that there's a definite contrast. So we've got that absolute contrast. We've then added on that outward offset border. So we've now got a faux matte. So this isn't real matte. This is all still flat. But the card itself still looks like it's got layers.
It does.
So I'm going to press OK. I want that border that's on there. Okay. I am now going to load my mat. And this is the super. I love doing this. This is why the ScanNCut is just so incredible. And I apologise, I get very excited and very carried away with all of this. I'm going to press start. I even lost my cursor because I got all excited. So now we're creating a mat that is still the bauble shape.
I think that's incredible.
It's brilliant. So also in Minecraft Studio, you've also got your fonts and things like that. Mm-hmm. So now you could have on here at the front, instead of having just Merry Christmas, you can put on here Merry Christmas from the Waite family to yours. Okay, so you can really personalise all these. And then again, as we've said, once you've done that, so how quick was that? It's cut it, done straight away. So I'm going to press OK, unload the map.
Well,
this is the super fun bit. And that is going to fit on there with a 2mm
beautiful.
border.
That just sits on there snug and perfect,
Isn't it good?
Oh,
so then
wow.
if I wanted to, I could go back in again. Look at that. How beautiful is that?
It's so easy to do. When you do it like that, it just shows you how easy it actually is.
It really is that easy.
You don't need to sit there with a pair of scissors cutting it out. The machine will just do it for you.
But I can now manipulate that and can I turn that into a card shape as well. So it is really, really clever and it's so much fun. And it's very addictive, as we found out when Stephanie got on here. We couldn't get her back off the computer. She was really, really excited about it. So I know David's got a question.
Oh, yes, definitely. So we've had a lovely question in as well from yourselves. And it's regarding you when you're using your reflections on your Charisma on Minecraft Studio. Now, if you go onto your USB that you get with your reflections on there, they will all be saved onto your USB as PDFs. Now, what you need to do is you can go onto Google or internet anywhere and type in PDF to JPEG converter because MCS reads JPEGs. So if you then go into any of those, you can do them on many different documents and softwares for free, is that you can actually convert all of the files to a JPEG, which means then that if you've got any imagery at all, any of those, save them all as JPEGs, then you can use them all on Minecraft Studio. So when we're being asked questions about using reflections from previous USBs, just make sure you're converting them first, then we can use them. What we will do in the future is do a video on that for you as well, so we can actually talk you through all that process. But for any of you wanting to do it now, that's how you do it. But yeah, just look it up on the internet, a converter of the two files. It's super, super easy to do, but it's just because the software reads them as a different format. It's like trying to put a CD into a USB port kind of thing. So it'll just read it differently. But once it's converted, it's perfect.
But then is that as sorry, this is I'm here to ask the questions for you as well because I'm learning. When you've changed that, it doesn't alter anything on the USB or anything, does it? It's only altering it on the screen while you're working with it.
No, yeah. So you would have all your USB with all of your files already on there and they would stay as they are. But when you're taking an element from the USB, it will save it in its USB archive, but then you'd maybe save it onto another USB or onto your PC, whether it's a folder that you want to save as JPEGs from Minecraft Studio. So you would save them as a separate file. So you end up with two. one for USB, which is compatible with whatever the platform you want to use, whether it's just a print, but your secondary one, which you're saving as a JPEG, will then just stay as a separate file. It's not going to change the file that you've already got. That will stay the same. You're just going to save it. You can make 20 variations of it if you wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, so you've never got to worry about damaging anything on the USB.
So by changing it into the JPEG and using it in Minecraft Studio, we've then got the ability to do all of the changes that we already have with this one. It'll have that box around it. We then print it off and then just scan it in and use it.
Yeah,
so really, even though, as lovely as this is, this says a frosted eve.
Yeah.
This then becomes an all year round usable element because of all the foliage and everything.
Amazing. Yes, absolutely. I mean, when you take something from seasonal and then actually really look closely at it and think, what else could this work into? That is perfect for this. And of course, it's so Christmassy and nostalgic, but when you start to look at all of the elements, just like you say, any season, any occasion it can be used for, because you've got the manipulation option in there.
That's fabulous, isn't it?
It's just incredible.
It's just like, oh, where do I go and how do I play with it? Yeah, so have we got another yeah, let's do another one, David.
Okay, we're going to do another scene. So I'm going to go back onto my software here. And you can see that on my screen here, we're still left with the page that we previously had. Now you could go into your computer to save this with your icon up here, saving it either onto your computer or again, onto maybe another USB that you might have on here. But what we're going to do is we're just going to press new up in this icon up here, and it's just going to bring us up a new page. You can see here we still have our original one. I actually have another one here which I can get rid of. But now it's going to leave us with two pages here, meaning that we've got multiple projects. It's a little bit like my craft room at home. I've got loads of unfinished projects, but here they're just sat there virtually. So what we can do as well is change the size of your mat. So maybe you like to work on a 12 by 12 mat at home, or whatever size your craft surface is, make it suit your desk virtually. So you've got the option there to be able to actually then not really change the way that you work, change the system to the way you want it to work for you. So if we go into the print option up here, you have an icon that says port and land. Now that's of course for your portrait and landscape options. So if we make it landscape, it can just make it a little bit easier. It sort of sets your mind in the process of working in a landscape format. So if we go back into home, it'll take us to our drop down with all our files. And we're going to go into our scenes for this one. So again, we do have mixtures of portrait and landscape scenes in here. So if I pick number 27, and it's going to bring it out portrait, as that's sort of the format they're saved in, which saves the most space, but we can just rotate it round. Now, this is beautiful. It almost has like a watercolor effect finish to it, but I want to change the size of this. So I'm going to bring it down like this, and then I'm actually going to digital punch this. So as I go up into this top icon up here, if I go into our basic shapes, and they're all in alphabetical order of what they actually are, I'm going to go all the way down to a square. So I'm going to bring a square on here. Now this is where you can make a card exactly the same size you maybe would want to put into an envelope that you've already got. So say we had our envelope that was 20 centimeters square, for an example, just a random example. We could go into our boxes down here, and you see where it says 5.3. If we change that on our keyboard to 20, it now makes our box 20 centimeters. Now I think I'm going to make it a little bit smaller than that. Let's do it actually 15 centimeters. There we go. So our square now is 15 centimeters, and you may have got an envelope that's 16 centimeters that it'll pop into. So what I'm going to do is actually highlighting my digital punch. I'm going to bring it to the front like this, and I'm going to actually sit it over the top of our image here. And I'm going to capture, almost like you're using a viewfinder, where we'd like to actually use our image. So I'm going to sit it around about here. And then if we go into digital punch up here, you can either keep the outer or keep the inner. Now we want to keep the inner, which now means that we are left with almost a photograph that you have then captured. This is now your own shaped aperture. But we want to make a matte and layer for this, don't we?
So you've fussy cut that, haven't you?
I've fussy cut this with a click of the finger, which is just brilliant because now it means that we can work accurately. So what I'm going to do is with my digital punch, I'm going to leave it here just on the side of my mat where I'm working. And if we go back into our USB, textures and colors, I think I want a deep blue for this one. Let's have a look at what we've got on here. So I think number 18, oh yeah, I like that one. It's almost like an anthracite, deep black charcoal colour. I'm just going to reduce the size down a little bit. Here we go. So I know it's going to be wide enough. And I'm going to get my digital punch here. And I'm now going to make my digital punch 16 centimetres square. So now we've actually made this slightly bigger. So if we move our image out of the way, bring our digital punch to the forward, and you always need to keep bringing it to the front because of course we're adding more layers on each time, and the Minecraft Studio treats your digital punch as a layer. It's not almost like your pair of scissors sat at the side of your mat, it treats it as an image that you're using. So you always want to bring it to the front. I'm going to sit it over the top now of our coloured cardstock if you like, and again we're going to keep the inner. Now what I'm going to do with our digital punch is I'm going to delete it. So if we go home, in this top corner, if you ever get worried, just go home. Because if you never know where you are, home's the best place to go. And it's just up here in the corner. And that's where all of your icons and your folders will sit. So if you ever thought, oh, I've got stuck in these tools, I don't know where I am, home is the best place to go.
But
then you can
sorry, David, you've not deleted that then,
Nope,
though, have you?
not deleted
anything. It's not
anything.
gone, is
Nope,
it?
nothing's
like
gone.
on the ScanNCut, it's still there.
It's still there. You can't do anything wrong. It prompts you every step of the way, which is perfect because someone like myself, which learned from scratch, you need to have those reassurances in the software. And I think this is why it makes it so achievable for everybody. But you can see here with our digital punch highlighted with the squares around the edge, we can now delete it off, bring in our image. But now our image is sat behind our colorway, which is frustrating. So of course we want to bring that forward. So bring it to the front, makes it super easy. Now we've got our mats and layers for our card. So we're creating mats and layers in seconds, but now we know that accurately our card is now 16 centimeters square, which is when printed at 100% will be the exact size you want it to be. So if you're looking at your computer thinking, oh, I don't know how big this is going to print off, using these icons at the bottom, your width and your height, will mean that you can always be reassured. So what I'm going to do now is group this together. So I'm going to group it in one piece, which now means I now have a singular panel. So the software is now looking at this image here as one piece. It doesn't see it as two layers. When you go into your layers here, we now only have one layer and not two, of course, because it is only one layer. But we can now bring on some of our scenery, some of our images. So if we're going to scene building, I think if we bring on the church, that looks absolutely beautiful. But at the same time, I'm thinking the colours don't quite work. This almost looks like a really nice, cozy, warm scene, but the background is set in the scene of quite a frosty evening. So I'm thinking, just reduce the size a little bit. We need to change the colours. So if we go into the effects icon, which is just here again, across those 4 tabs, if we select one of these and we go into our hue icon, and just to show you here how many there are. Now these are all your drag bars, and you can see, if we go into hue and change it ever so slightly, you can see all of the coloration you can get. And we can keep going until it matches what we want, which is, I'd say, about there. Which I think works really, really well, because now we've got the blue hints to give you that really nice frosted, cool look that goes with the rest of this. And we're going to want all of our imagery to match this. So if we're bringing on things like our trees, again, it doesn't quite work, but because we've got the software to change that for us, if we go into the hue, we can then change the tree to work beautifully in the scene. So if we reduce this one down, again, we're going to order to send this backwards. So it's going to sit behind our church here, like this. And then what I'm going to do is, because I want all of the trees to be the same colour, instead of going back into my files and dragging each element out one by one, I'm going to do the copy and paste trick. So just right-clicking on the tree to copy and then paste will bring up one of the exact same size, which of course is great for consistency, but at the same time we can change it to whatever we want it to be. So we're going to order send backwards, and it's going to sit just behind the church, just there like that. So I think I'm going to bring on just one more little tree, bring it down here like this, and move everything up slightly. I can then build some imagery into my foreground. So I'm going to sit these here flush, and then I think if we go, let's have a look, we've got a frosted fence here, which I think looks quite nice with a bit of snow building up. If I have 2 of these, so I'm going to go copy and paste. So I've got 2 of them. I'm going to, let's have a look, we're going to flip this one horizontally again to make a gate opening. We can sit one go in here like this. So now this blends in really nice with the snow, and sit one here, and we could build let's almost have it so that, of course, this is 2 red robins, so we're going to make that really stand out. And we're just going to have the animals here that have walked into the middle, like a little congregation of them just sat there in the foreground, which I think looks so, so sweet. And as well, of course, if you wanted to reduce the intensity of some of this imagery, like the tree, for example, you can really make them quite subtle and blend into the background. So we can tone these all down so the sharpness is gone from some of that imagery if you want it to be. And you can just get lost in whatever you're doing. It just makes it so magical. But you can see there, just by adding these elements, and then when we go into our layers, you can see how many you've brought on, but that's all that you've used to make an image that has that much impact. I just think it is absolutely incredible. So
it really is incredible. And when you print that off, that's flat, but it doesn't look flat.
It doesn't.
So again, as
that was just like magic, Amanda.
I know, just like magic, just like that. How fantastic is that? And that again is a flat image, which is just beautiful. So now you've done all that work, as we did with the first one, you save all that, or even if you think, yeah, I want that, but I didn't like that tree in that one, so you're going to take a tree out of. Yeah. Just by swapping and changing just even one image is going to make that totally different. Glitter it up, use your glitters, etc. And that is going to make a fabulous card, but it's going to look really, really professional.
They look almost shop bought.
I know. You did.
Oops.
They look like real cards, David. Bless him. So now, again, taking this to the ScanNCut, we can cut this out straight away. Now, one of the things that David could have done is to have printed it on here, on this side, and then by printing it out, you would score down the edge.
Yes.
Fold it up, and you don't even have to cut it out on your ScanNCut at all. You could then use your SVG files and your embellishments and your reflections to then add embellishments to that card. So if you wanted to, these are actually creating, as is this one, a perfect flat image.
There's I was going to say, because there's
nothing on there.
All we've done with this one is this here is your A4 piece that's been trimmed down, but that was printed as is, then just scored and folded. So you can see this isn't even stuck on there. That's flush to the surface. So like you say, even with your inners of your card, all your inserts, again, doing the same, you don't need to actually cut anything.
No, but it is fabulous. So the two are just made perfectly together. So what we would do again, so remember last time, we used that scan to direct cut, and that's exactly what we're doing because we're placing it down. I've just popped it in the top left hand. In fact, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do.
Why?
Take it up there because I don't need to.
Oh.
Because I've got a scanner in my machine.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have to. It's just habit putting it in that top left hand corner.
It is, isn't it? I feel like even if I've got a minuscule piece of card,
you still go for the top left hand corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this in exactly the same way. Press OK. Right, OK. So we're going to scan again. So we're just scanning. So we could scan, direct cut onto our machine because it's going to go in the machine. And I'm going to say, yep, so start, press start, and off it goes. And this, again, is one of the fabulous reasons why we have a ScanNCut, because it does all this for us. So it's now recognising. And sometimes when there's a lot of imagery on there, it might take a while, but don't worry about that because all it's doing is looking at everything and saying, OK, what am I looking at? What can I see? So again, I'm going to press OK. And it's telling me to drag all these pieces in. So I'm going to frame it again. And I can do that because you can see all these cuts on here. That's how good this scanner is. It's picking up all that detail on the mat. So I'm going to reduce that down by size because I don't need it to see all of those. And now you can see what it's actually seen on the mat. It can find the square this time. But on here, we've got ignore object size. Now, if we had a fussy cut piece of paper on here, and we were wanting to cut out the flowers. So we would scan it in and it was a 12 by 12 and all of the flowers are on here, but we've got smaller ones, but we just want to cut the big ones. That's when you would ignore object size. So you would go into this, you would click on it, so just so I can show you. So then you'd say, I want to ignore everything. And as it goes up, all the little pieces, the dots start to disappear off your screen because it's ignoring them. It can't see them anymore because you're telling it what you want it to see. So for this instance, and that way you can then pick and choose the elements that you're wanting it to cut when you're actually scanning in and fussy cutting some of the pieces. So again, it holds your hand all the time, this machine. So I'm going to press OK. There it is. Now, again, remember, you can go in and add on that extra outward offset layer or inward offset layer, whichever way you wanted to go. I'm going to press OK because we're going to cut it right to the edge. Press select and cut. Start.
Just like that?
Just like that. How easy is that?
I was about to say you make it look so easy, but it actually is.
It really is easy. It has to be, otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it because I really am not. I'm not technology minded.
You know, that's the thing is, I would say I'm probably the least technical person from like out of my friends, out of my fellow crafters at home as well, and it completely changed for me when I started to be introduced to things like the ScanNCut and Minecraft Studio because it didn't take any of the creativity away from me. It allowed me to actually be more creative.
Yeah, I think this does.
Yeah.
Having these two together absolutely builds that creativity.
Which is amazing.
So now this time, if you remember last time, we did this one and we added the outward offset line and then we did a matte layer for it. So we did all of that on the ScanNCut just by using the outward image. This time we've cut it right up to the edge. So this could now, look how clean that is.
Oh,
I love it when it is very
You've
satisfying.
got a viewfinder.
Yeah, you've got a viewfinder. I've got two for one. But look how close that is cut. It's that crisp and clean. It's fabulous. So now, if I did then, because we've printed these on 140 GSM,
Yeah.
so we could now matten that layer onto, just move that one out the way, onto there like that. And that could be another mat. Then we can then bring on another square and then create another blue mat, and then create another square and create our card blank. So if you did want it still to be flat, but you still want to add that little bit of something to your cards by adding your mats and layers, you absolutely can. And like we said, it just adds to your creativity. When we get going with something like this, especially when we're all in the office together, we banter off each other and we get really quite carried away with what we can do.
Just a little bit.
So another question for David.
We've also had a question in about adding drop shadows to images, which is something really interesting. So I'm going to quickly show you how to do that on the software now. So thank you ever so much for your question. So I'm going to bring on any random image. In fact, we'll go for the festive fair because it is selected. We'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see exactly what we're doing. This will work on any single image you drag on from the Minecraft Studio elements within Two Red Robins, whether it would be the tree, the post box, the deer, anything, whether it's actually a card that you've just made, it will work. So if we then go into our effects up here in the top corner, you have all of these options here. Now, drop shadow is an amazing feature to be able to add on something because of course it gives you a drop shadow, but it's the illusion of a drop shadow because you've not had to actually do two cuts to create it. So you've got all of these icons here which are sat at 0 at the moment. Now changing these will instantly make the numbers change in here, but you can see as I drag this up, it almost looks like you've got a silhouette shifting behind. Now that is the depth of your drop shadow, but it looks quite harsh to start with if you look at it. You can also change the direction if you wanted the drop shadow at any point. It could be sat down in the corner, it could be over to the side, depends on where you want to get the light casting from. So I'm going to have it here. I'm going to reduce the amount it's actually going outwards, but then we can blur it so it softens it completely. So you can see there now, you have an image with a drop shadow just like that. How easy is that? We can do it with
Oh my goodness, I'm
anything.
speechless. Sorry, can you do that?
I've just
Can
had
we
to
go
pick
back?
Amanda's jaw up off the floor.
I've not seen this one before. Like I say, I'm on a learning with this with everybody
It's
else.
fun. Let's drag on this
Oh
one
my
here.
goodness.
So
Go on, yeah.
let's do it. So we go into our effects here. Again, we go down to the drag bar and add the depth on. Again, this could be a sunset shadow if you wanted it to be.
So how did we do the thing where you rotated it round, where you
So,
moved it?
This here is the automatic direction in where it appears. So if I go like this, of course, it'll be more visible on how it's rotating.
Oh my
But
word.
the direction here gives a 360 radius rotation, which means that if we just bring it in a little bit, let's bring it right back. It means that if we want the sun to be casting from the left or the right, that's what you can appear to happen. Or maybe it looks like it's actually from underneath. It really is entirely up to you. But I think it looks most realistic at the side like this.
How precise is that?
So precise, so accurate, but then blurred out, then gives you...
That's beautiful.
It's that professional touch that then actually placed onto your card. You don't get more professional and finesse finish than that.
No, absolutely not.
So if we bring the depth all the way out as well, you can see that it's almost like a really big shadow. But if we bring the depth all the way in, it will give you almost a fuzz that sits around the image here. So you can then, of course, bring that out like that, and it gives you that fuzz that sits around the edge. It means that you've got height and depth within anything. And think about as well, if you're doing a multi-layered image, you could have a drop shadow on every image, giving you almost the effect of when you're maybe cutting things on your ScanNCut and you're inking it all, so you've got the separation layers. This is what that will create for you. So that's just a little technique, which is one of thousands which you can be doing. But if you have got any more questions at all, because of course we've had loads of questions come through on here, and we will endeavour to get all of those answered for you, of course, because that's what we love to do. So if you drop in the questions on the chat, if they're going to be on the YouTube feed, whether they're on Facebook, just always email to us as well at info@highlightcrafts.com, and we'll be able to get all of those answered for you. And as well, we can always put together another Minecraft Studio video for you. If you want those to be answered in there, we can do. We could even do a sit-down video, literally opening the box with Minecraft Studio, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific USB we focus on. It could just be the software itself. So if that's something you'd like to see, I think that would be a brilliant idea.
I'm coming.
I'll be there. But it just means that then we can go through everything with you. And I think as well, it's really nice to have all of this back with you as well, and nice to be exploring it. It's fabulous, isn't it?
It has been absolutely fabulous. So unfortunately, we have run out. In fact, we've gone over time. We really have run out of time. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you all again soon.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Bye.